Hello everyone, are you ready for one last round of DTM? We certainly are. It's the grand finale, as tradition has it, of course, here at the Hockenheimring. And the man who is leading the championship is Thomas Preining. This young man over here is sitting in the car already, all eager to get started. And he is leading 10 points ahead of Mirko Bortolotti. And then we've got Riccardo Fella, who's 31 points behind Preining. And one thing is for sure, these guys are going to fight so hard, and it's going to be so competitive, and every single point counts, and that's what they're going to show in this qualifying. So let's do it. Here's the qualifying. Enjoy. And here are your commentators.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Hockenheimring as we get set for the first of two qualifying sessions, two huge qualifying sessions in this championship deciding weekend. Thomas Preining arrives here as the points leader and as the driver on form. He's the one that scored the most points over the last two weekends. Last year, he arrived as the driver with the greatest form, but got involved in a huge crash out at the start of the Saturday race, which ruined his weekend, put him out of race one. He couldn't start race two, and his championship in his first season went off the rails. But he has won here in the past, and he'll take that confidence coming into the weekend, plus a 10-point championship lead over Mirko Bortolotti, a driver also in his second season of DTM. And then you've got 31 points adrift, Riccardo Fella still in with a chance. Nothing to lose, he said to me last night. I'm going to go for it, so we'll see what he can do in the Abt Sportsline Audi, and still just about mathematically in with a chance. A very, very slim chance is the defending champion Sheldon van der Linde, because he's 52 points behind. At the moment, there are still 56 points available in the championship. 3 points if you qualify on pole, 2 points if you qualify second, and a point for qualifying third each day, and then 25 points available for a race win this afternoon, and then again tomorrow. So that's the scenario. There is Thomas Preining, the race winner at the Norris Ring, has had 5 other podium finishes this year. He's been in the points in every single race. Mirko Bortolotti has been trading the championship lead with him for the last few rounds. He's had more wins than anybody this season with 3, and he's picked up 2 in the last 3 weekends, but the Red Bull Ring was unkind to him. He got clipped from behind at the start of the Sunday race, a puncture, had to come in, change tyres, and then was right down at the back of the field. There were no safety car interventions. He was never able to get back up into the points. And then you got Riccardo Fella here coming in with good form as well. He's had 2 podiums in the last few weekends. He's the only other driver apart from Thomas Preining that has been on the in the points in the top 15 in every single race this year. And like the other two, this is his second season in DTM as well. His first season last year, he won a race at Imola. He's been a race winner this year at the Norris Ring as well. And he might be hoping for a bit of help from that man, his teammate Kelvin van der Linde, who was quickest in both of the practice sessions yesterday, albeit one was wet and one was on a damp, drying track. So very different conditions today. Sheldon van der Linde, the younger brother of Kelvin van der Linde, the South African, the reigning champion, he's already sort of accepted the fact that it's hugely unlikely he's going to be able to retain the #1, but he's just going to go for it. And Schubert is still in with a chance of winning the team's championship as well, which is almost tighter than the Drivers' Championship standings coming into this weekend. Manthey, EMA, and they returned to the Championship for more than 20 years the last time they were in the Championship. They got a 27-point lead over Abt. Abt Sportsline have had 5 drivers and 5 teams titles. They're the most successful team in the history of the DTM, and only a point behind them in third, SSR Performance, who run these Lamborghinis. And 30 points adrift, Schubert Motorsport, the defending champions. But the top 2 in each team scored points, so there are 90 points still available in the Teams Championship as well. And then just to mention, the Manufacturers Championship, 6 manufacturers, 5 of them mathematically could still win. There's Hans-Jürgen Abt then, all focus, the boss of the Abt Sportsline team. The first team to unveil its new car for 2024 last night. A big crowd was gathered around in the paddock. They unveiled that they're going to be running an Audi again next year, and they have the return of Red Bull as their key sponsor for the first time since 2018. I've had a partnership which lasted previously 16 years, from 2002 to 2018. A huge crowd is going to be gathered here for the race this afternoon. It was bedlam trying to get into the circuit this morning. We're expecting a massive, massive crowd here, and they are all set for a beautiful day as well. It's about 15 degrees at the moment. It should be about 17 or 18 degrees this afternoon. and it should be a dry weekend. So we're about to go qualifying. This is going to be absolutely critical, and not just in terms of grid position, but those extra bonus points you can score for the championship contenders. Let's see how it all unfolds here at Hockenheim. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm here in the commentary box overlooking the start-finish line, overlooking that last stadium section, which saw lots of drama yesterday, including for Ricardo Feller, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But first, let's introduce you to the other voice you'll be hearing from during the course of this qualifying session. Brian Oliver, good morning.
Good morning, Chris. We are ready to go for this qualifying session. Never has a qualifying session felt so important because there are, of course, points awarded for the first three on the grid, the first three qualifiers at the end of this qualifying session. Also, grid position is so important. And with the championship so close, every point really counts. It's an entirely different scenario to yesterday in free practice. We had a wet track, we had drizzle, we had rain. Today, the sun is shining, the track is dry. So the teams will be wanting to get out early, get the data in. This is going to be a critical 18 3/4 minutes.
Yeah, and what they don't have is a great deal of data from yesterday because of the conditions. It was wet for the first free practice. It was almost dry with a dry line at the start of free practice too, but then more rain came and it was a damp, messy session, really. It was a pretty messy session as well for Ricardo Feller. If you were watching online yesterday, the the free practice session rather, you'll have seen a pretty big off for Ricardo Feller. That was coming out of turn 12, the Mobile 1 curve, and he suddenly snapped off onto the other side of the circuit, went across the, well, I was going to say grass, but there's not much grass left there now, it's all mud. Went across there, wiped out one of the ADAC marker boards, took out his wing mirror, and then we didn't see him until right at the end of the session. We got one lap in. That was all he got in free practice too. That transpired to be a damper issue with the car, but I had a chat with Ricardo last night, and he said, well, you know, it wasn't too bad because I didn't really miss anything because the session, we wouldn't have learned anything from it anyway. With the conditions that they were all here, or most of them were here a week ago though, with 2 private test days, and they were beautiful conditions for that. Best time in that, as you see the championship top 3 points there. The best lap time, just as a guide, in that test session a week or so ago was set by Maro Engel in the Mercedes with a 1:37.1. The lap record here is quicker than that, but on different tyres, on Michelin tyres. So the quality lap record set last year by last year's pole sitter, Lucas Auer, with a 1:36.4. Mercedes were first and second in qualifying last year with Lucas Auer. This is on the Saturday. Lucas Auer ahead of Lucas Stoltz. And Mirko Bortolotti, though, qualified third last year in the Lamborghini. Right, there he is, Ricardo Feller, and as well as the announcement of the partnership with Red Bull and continuing as a team that will run Audis next year, Abt also mentioned that they're going to have the same driver lineup, so Ricardo Feller and Kelvin van der Linde back for next year. I had a chat, as I say, with Hans-Jürgen Abt, and he said, for me, what's really important, he said they're a great pair of drivers, they work really well together, but for me, they're also really nice people to work with, and it's a big family atmosphere at Sportsline. So I think that continuation into next year, a third season with those 2 drivers running together, is going to be really impressive to watch. I think they could be right up there again.
Yes, it's really good to see the excitement building for next year already. A number of teams already nailing their colours to the mast, plus rumours of new teams coming in as well, as we see Thomas Preining coming back into the pits after his Saito lap. Another driver who had a big moment yesterday was championship challenger Mirko Bortolotti, coming out of turn 16, got out wide on the very slippery part of the circuit that is a part of the runoff area that is used as a drag strip during other parts of the season. There is no grip at all. He did make a connection with the fence, but didn't appear to have too much damage. But you saw yesterday how hard these drivers are trying. They were exploring the limits, looking to see how far they could push it. Now it's payback time. Those drivers who were out yesterday, and it was Mirko Bortolotti who put a lot of laps in yesterday, exploring the limits of the track. Today, it's time to put all that to good use. I think it's going to be a fairly quiet 5 or 6 minutes to go in this session, and then it's going to be all hell let loose because this track is going to get quicker and quicker as the session goes on.
Yeah, absolutely right, because this is the first dry running we've had. Other than a GT Masters qualifying session, which ended about 10 minutes ago, that's been it. So it's a pretty green track, which should get grippier and grippier. The track temperature will go up, but more rubber will get laid down. So it could almost be a case of last driver over the line, if you time it right, gets the quickest lap if you're all hooked up together. Now, Thomas Preining there, you're looking at the Austrian, looking to become the first Austrian DTM champion. We had Lucas Auer coming close last year. He finished second in the championship. But all fans of Thomas, his friends, his family, all of Austria will be cheering him on this weekend. His qualifying record has been exceptional this year. He's only had one pole position, but then again, we've had 9 different pole sitters, so it's hard to get more than one. He's averaged 6th on the grid, though, and has had a pole and 4 other front row starts. But he hasn't started on the front row of the grid since the middle of the season, since the Saturday at the Nürburgring. He's had a couple of off qualifying sessions as well, but he did pretty well at the Red Bull Ring, his home race, to qualify 4th twice. Mirko Bortolotti has been the equal second best qualifier. He's averaged 7th on the grid, and he's been able to pick up pole positions 3 times this year. 3, one at Nürburgring, one at Lausitzring, and 1 at the Sachsenring. And you won't be massively surprised to learn that that man has been the equal second best qualifier this year. 2 poles and a 3rd and another front row start for Ricardo Feller. He's averaged 7th on the grid. Now, Dennis Olsen could be a key factor here. We talked about Kelvin van der Linde, maybe someone that can help take points away from Ricardo Feller's challengers, Mirko Bortolotti and Thomas Preining. But Dennis Olsen was very rapid during the practice sessions yesterday, and for almost the entire day yesterday, he and Thomas Preining were running together on track, weren't they?
Yes, it was really interesting to see the 2 cars running pretty well, as you say, the whole session together on track. They'll be hoping to do something similar to that in the race today. Thomas Preining, he won't be carrying it in qualifying, but will have an extra 5 kilos on board for the race, and every kilo counts here. Sheldon van der Linde, that you're looking at there, he's got an extra 10 kilos on board, and René Rast an extra 20 kilos. That, of course, is success ballast on account of finishing 1, 2, 3 last time out at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, just quickly to mention the balance of performance, weight changes since last time out at the Red Bull Ring. The significant one is that the BMWs are 25 kilograms lighter, but they had 20 kilograms added on for the Red Bull Ring, where everybody knew they were going to be very competitive based on past performances. So they're essentially 5 kilograms heavier than they were at the Sachsenring 2 rounds ago. 10 kilograms lighter as well at the Lamborghinis since the Red Bull Ring. 15 kilograms heavier at the Audis, 10 kilograms heavier the Mercedes, and 5 kg heavier the Porsches. As Alessio De Leda goes out. Yesterday he was called up to the steward's office because there was a lap or so where he was in front of Thomas Preining on a wet track and Dennis Olsen. They were trying to get past him in free practice and they just couldn't get past him. So he was questioned about that, but there was no further action.
No, but his pocket is a couple of grand lighter as a result also of spinning the wheels on the jacks when he came into the pit stop. So the steward's keeping an eye on all sorts of things. You don't get away with it here, and it's good. A very firmly controlled sport is the DTM, especially the pit stops. And we do need to keep an eye on those because pit stops are going to be critical today. Races can be won or lost in the pits, and the pit stops are not easy, as we found out yesterday.
We're just in René Rast briefly in the garage, looking calm and relaxed, the 3-time champion who picked up his 26th career victories, 49th podium last time out at the Red Bull Ring to get his first win as a BMW driver in the DTM. He's looking for his 50th podium. Right, psyching himself up. Here is a replay of Thomas Preining firing himself up. He might be still a relatively young man, but he's won titles before. He won the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland. He's been a winner here in Porsches. He's raced here in Formula 4, in GT Masters as well. There's the team standings. Manthey EMA, the German-Australian combination for the year, leading those standings. That's going to be extremely tight. We'll need to keep an eye on that, with 4 teams still capable of winning the team's title as well. So Thomas Preining then, poised and ready to go out on track. We still haven't had any meaningful lap times, and we're approaching already halfway in the stage, and look how he goes out and just in front of Ricardo Feller. So 1st and 3rd in the championship going out onto the track. The one driver that did loads and loads of laps yesterday on that sort of greasy, drying track, and then damp, and then it got drier again, then it got wetter again, was Mirko Bortolotti. So if at any stage during the course of the weekend, it's not meant to happen, but there's always a slim chance of a rain shower here or there. If that happens, Mirko should be in a good position. He also went pretty well in the dry test, although he did have a crash in the first private test last week on the Monday, which put him out of most of the morning session, but he was out again Monday afternoon, out again on Tuesday. and he was pretty happy. And Ricardo Feller was pretty happy with his car as well during the test, although he said we're definitely struggling in terms of straight line pace here. The long straight really kills us here. So Alessio Deledda looks like he's going to be the first to set a time. We're looking at probably sparks flying from the back of the Lambo. We're looking at probably somewhere in the mid or high 137s, I would guess, looking at the track. It's not going to be its absolute optimum, but we shall see how it transpires. Worth mentioning as well, an additional Lamborghini driver this weekend, Brian, because we've got Christian Engelhardt back with Grasser Racing.
Yes, isn't it great to have Christian Engelhardt back, but not in a Porsche. With Grasser, he is in the Lamborghini. We last saw him in a Lamborghini in the GT Masters back in 2019, where he was sharing the driving duties with none other than Mirko Bortolotti. They were a great combination. They finished second in the championship with 3 wins that year. Christian Engelhardt back in the Lamborghini, and he's taken to it very well, instantly on the pace, even though it's the Evo 2, so a different variation of the Lamborghini Huracan to what he's used to.
So all the cars running on Pirelli slick tyres, 550 plus brake horsepower, the variations of these cars. There is Christian Engelhardt there with the GGMT Revolution special gold livery on the car, as it was last time out at the Red Bull Ring, the partnership with the Gold Brokers, and an outstanding livery for somebody whose record in terms of race wins here at Hockenheim can't really be bettered by anybody on the grid. Christian Engelhardt, he's got a terrific record at this track in both Porsche racing and in GT Masters racing. So Engelhardt, a winner here in 2016 and 17 in the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland. In GT Masters, he's had 3 wins here, including 1 last year, and another podium in 2018. So he's certainly going to be a key factor this weekend. And you've got to remember, as we mentioned yesterday, Brian, that 90% of the field aren't worried about championship points. They're here to go and try and win a race.
Yes, and that'll make it a very lively race this afternoon, I should think, because they just want to get the podium. Let's have a listen to Bortolotti's radio.
So Mirko, track position is very good. Track position is very good. Stay where you are. Everybody behind you is on the same strategy.
So Mirko Bortolotti just coming up towards the end of a lap. He's got a fairly clear gap ahead of him before he would get to Christian Engelhardt. Just looking at where Thomas Preining and Ricardo Feller are in comparison to him. Yeah, they're a lot further round the track. Every single car is out there, so we'll keep an eye on this. Bortolotti, yeah, 3rd for now, but it's not a competitive time yet. They haven't pulled the trigger yet. Here's Clement Schmidt, still looking for his first DTM podium. He's come close a couple of times this year, but we'll see how he can get on. He's been on the podium here in the past as well, Clement Schmidt, and this looks like it's going to be getting somewhere close to a competitive time. We're still not beneath the 1 minute 40 mark yet, and that track going to get quicker and quicker. Ricardo Feller, I can see from the commentary box, he's about to start a lap in the blue AB Sportsline Audi, the Swiss driver. And congratulations to Ricardo, because since we were last at the DTM, he has become a champion in the GT World Challenge, partnering Matteo Drudi in the Sprint Cup category. So huge congrats to him. Marco Wittmann and his teammates, runners-up in the GT World Challenge Europe main category as well this year, after numerous victories, including 1 at the Spa 24-hour race mid-season.
Clement Schmidt just backing out of it there. We saw him do the 2 purple sectors, then he backed out in sector 3, so now just winding himself up for a fast push lap. Number of drivers having to do out laps and pre-laps, especially the Mercedes drivers. It takes about 3 laps to get the heat into the tyres. Of course, tyre warmers not allowed in DTM. So these are critical laps, even though the drivers aren't setting necessarily competitive times at the moment. It's all about getting the tyres into the window and then nailing it. You've got the space for that push lap.
Right, Mirko Bortolotti backing it off, and I think about to pull the trigger for what should be the first of a couple of quick laps as he makes his way towards the end of the lap. Grazed that barrier coming out of subcurve turn at 17, as Brian said yesterday, as he went off on that hugely slippery runoff area there, but good reactions meant that it wasn't a heavier crash. So he's about to pull the trigger. He goes through turn 1 at the Nord curve, and they take that at nearly 150 miles an hour, 140 kilometers an hour, and off he'll then go down towards turn 2, where before he hits the brakes and drops down to 2nd gear, he'll already be at 215 kilometers an hour. Christian Engelhardt's top of the times at the moment, and about to go much quicker on this lap as well. But Ricardo Feller sets the first 1 minute 37 of the session. So he goes early, 1:37.803, with Christian Engelhardt looking like he's going to get somewhere near the 1:37s on this lap in the number 19 Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini. He was a Lamborghini driver for the team back in 2016 for 4 years, but in the older version of the Lamborghini. He's getting to grips with this one pretty well, although he's pushing it right to the limits on the exit to the circuit. He goes quickest for now. With a 1:37.313, taking the top spot away, ironically, from his teammate Clement Schmidt. So it's a Grasser Racing 1-2 at the moment. Ricardo Feller bumped down to third, but it's going to change, Brian, almost every time somebody comes across the line, I think.
Yes, the track is getting quicker and quicker. We knew Christian Engelhardt would be quicker in that Lamborghini. That has proven to be the case. So now drivers pushing really hard. Keep an eye on turn 1, because track limits are an issue there. We've had a whole load, by my count, about 9 cancellations of current lap times as a result of drivers going too wide into turn 1, and that could be critical in this.
Matthias Drudy has done the absolute best first sector time, so he could be worth keeping an eye on, as we saw Arjan Maini going into third place. Dennis Olsen has just gone second, teammate to Thomas Priding, so that could be a key factor. Anybody else absolutely flying out there in the middle of the lap? Well, Bortolotti's gone up to 7th with a 1:38, but he should be hoping for a better lap this time around. Lucas Stoltz has gone up to 4th place. Fella's backed it off, so I think he's going to try and back it off and have one more go here, so a gap in between these push laps. But he's dropping down the order rapidly. He's down to 6th place now as others get quicker and quicker. Matthias Drudy then with a good start to the lap. But Mirko Bortolotti has gone absolute best in the first sector. And the first sector is the shortest sector on the lap. It only takes in the run through turns 1, 2, 3 and 4. The middle sector is the one you've really got to get right. That takes up half of the lap. So we'll see how he gets on there. Matthias Drudy comes home in 9th place. You're on board then with Mirko Bortolotti, the driver that's had more pole positions, more race wins than anybody so far this season. He makes his way then into the Mercedes-Benz Arena, drops down the gears and makes his way through the left-hander at turn 8, through turns 9 and 10 he'll go next, and then out of the link straight. He'll already been in about 122 kilometres an hour, heads towards the Mobile 1 curve next, which is a hugely quick corner, approaching at over 200 kilometres an hour. He's on a personal best in that middle sector as well. He's pushing the car to the very limits as he comes out of the Mobile 1 curve into the Sachs curve. He comes through this sweeping left-hander, makes his way through there in 2nd gear, snatches 3rd gear through turns 14 and 15, down towards the Sud curve. When he approaches the start-finish straight, he'll already be doing about 125 kilometres an hour. He nails the throttle now, goes for the line. Where is this going to put him? It looks like a good effort, this, from Mirko Bortolotti with 2.5 minutes to go. He goes for the top of the times, onto pole position, 1:37.023. That's quicker than any lap in the private test last week that he or anybody else set, but a long way still to go in this session. Thomas Priding now is pushing on hard. This is his first proper lap of the session. He comes way out wide, coming out of the last turn, accelerates for the line. He needs another good lap here, because that's only going to put him into 5th place, but he's got the chance to do it. One more lap, he's got time for 2, but probably only going to get one more lap out of the tyres. And there you got Jack Aitken has popped himself up to 4th place in the Ferrari as well. A lot of drivers are waiting to very late in the session to pull the trigger on this, but Jack Aitken, as you say, up into 4th place. Christian Engelhardt, still the benchmark, 1:37.313. Is that going to get eclipsed? Less than 2 minutes remaining of this, the penultimate qualifying session of the year, and this is René Rast. And Bortolotti had his lap time taken away, so that one's been scrapped. So Bortolotti's dropped down to 22nd place now for, guess what, track limits, guess where, turn 1, like they've all been doing. So he's got to get another good lap in, because Bortolotti is 22nd at the moment. René Rast, he's only 15th after that first effort. On board with Bortolotti then, and is he going to be able to match? That was a great lap, but it was beyond track limits, so that was why it was taken away from him. So this might be his last roll of the dice here. He's got a clear track ahead of him as he makes his way now down towards the last 2 turns, through the right at 16, into the Sud curve at 17. He now goes. It looks good. He's going quicker than he was on the previous lap, so he might just have nailed this. He sprints for the line. Can he get it without losing it this time? No, he can't. He loses 0.3 of a second, even though he was up on his own best lap. Everybody else has got a bit quicker. And now Thomas Priding sets the absolute best middle sector, and the middle sector's the critical one. That's half of the lap in terms of the length that you go through, as we watch Ricardo Feller coming up to the completion of a lap which he needs to improve upon. Because he's not right up there at the moment. He's doing okay in 7th place, and Priding goes to the top of the times with a 1:37.148. The championship leader with 30 seconds to go, Brian, he's on pole position. This is absolutely critical. Mirko Bortolotti will be kicking himself. He's down in 8th place at the moment. He's still got another shot at it, but time is running out. We've got 15 seconds of timed qualifying left.
Keep an eye on the timing streets as well to make sure that everybody's within the limits on turn 1. But Thomas Preining is the man who's laid down the gauntlet. On board again with Mirko Bortolotti.
Yeah, but he's way, way down. He's not going to be able to get a third lap out of this. So the best he can hope for now is 8th on the grid. He's back right off on this lap. Flag comes out. Fella is 7th. We haven't even mentioned Sheldon van der Linde. He's 27th at the moment. And way, way down the order. Last but 1. So Preining top of the times. Kelvin van der Linde improves right at the end of the session. He's gone into 6th place. Ahead of his teammate Ricardo Fellow, who's in 7th. But Ricardo is still pushing on here. Still trying to improve. What did he do through the first sector? A personal best, 21.3 seconds. So Ricardo Fellow has half a chance here. Remember, he just, unlike some of the others, backed off after his first flying lap. Can he pull something magical out of the back? 45.6 through the second sector. Preining with a 45.1 through the second sector. So in the middle sector, he's lost half a second alone. Surely he's not going to be able to get all of that back. Even if you get a couple of tenths back, it's only going to get him a couple of places on the grid. Preining's still pushing hard, but I don't think he's going to improve on this lap. But not for the want of trying from Thomas Preining. That was all over the grass. But it's half a second down on his previous best lap time. Right, can Fella find anything? He goes for the line now. Can he dig anything out of this? No, it's faded away from him. And so it looks, by all intents and purposes, as though Thomas Preining is going to pick up his second pole position of the year, and that would give him a crucial 3 championship points with none of his championship rivals in the top 3. He will extend his championship lead to 13 points going into this afternoon's penultimate round of the championship. So now there are 53 points available in the championship, and he's 13 points clear of Mirko Bortolotti. He's 34 points clear of Ricardo Fella, and he's 55 points clear of Sheldon van der Linde. So Sheldon van der Linde is now mathematically out of the championship running. It's down to a 3-horse race, and Sheldon is all the way back in 27th spot on the grid.
I think when you talk to Thomas Preining afterwards, he would say that's one of the most important pole positions of his career. Picking up those 3 points at this stage, knocking Sheldon van der Linde out of the championship as well. But a brilliant drive. Mirko Bortolotti, well, he's got a bit of work to do there from the 4th row.
There's Thomas's dad, who's been with him all these years, all the way through his karting career in the Rotax Max Euro Challenge, which he won with aplomb when he was a junior. And here he is on the cusp of becoming a DTM champion in only his 2nd season. But we got 2 races and a qualifying session still to come. There's your top 10. Preining, Engelhardt with an excellent 2nd, Olsen 3rd, Pereira 4th, Aitken 5th, Kelvin van der Linde 6th, Ricardo Fella 3rd in the championship 7th, Mirko Bortolotti 2nd in the championship 8th, and then Clement Schmidt and Lucas Stoltz rounding out the top 10. Ayhan Guan looked good yesterday. He's there in 11th place. Marco Wittmann 12th. One of the winners last year, Lucas Auer, back in 13th position. Maro Engel, disappointing for him after a really good test session last week. He's back in 21st position on the grid for this one. And Sheldon van der Linde, nobody saw that coming, all the way back in 27th spot on the grid for the defending champion, as you see, and the updated championship points. Sheldon van der Linde with his worst qualifying session of the year, I reckon, so he's just going to go for it now with Rennie Rast to try and salvage the team's championship out of this. But a 13-point lead, everybody behind him, the perfect session, a 1 minute 37.148 for Thomas Preining. And how is that for keeping cool under pressure? An enormous weight on his shoulders. You would argue perhaps, Brian, more pressure on the championship leader than anybody else. And Dennis Olsen, his teammate, the first to congratulate him. He's going to be a handy ally this weekend. He's going to be right behind Thomas, 3rd on the grid.
That is exactly what Manthey EMA needed, wasn't it? Preining on pole position, Dennis Olsen just behind him, playing potentially rear gunner. Mirko Bortolotti will be reliving that lap in his mind because he should have been on the front row, but for that track limits infringement into turn 1, and now he's got all the work to do. Great job from Christian Engelhardt, though. We had a feeling he might be quite strong on his return here, and qualifying on the front row alongside the championship leader, that is no mean feat. Just to remind you, Thomas Preining will be carrying an extra 5 kilos in the race as a result of his success ballast, but pole position, that's as much as he could do.
Yeah, and Dennis Olsen has picked the right moment to get his best qualifying of the year. He's had a couple of fifths, but he's never been as high as third on the grid this season for Manthey EMA. Now is Mirko Bortolotti walking away from what is a very disappointing qualifying session, but Mirko is a fighter. He will not give up, and he will be going for it in the race. It should be quite interesting to watch from 8th on the grid, because he's not going to be sitting there happy to be in 8th place for very long, is he?
And he's got Franck Pereira, his teammate, who's a little bit ahead of him as well. But understandably, Mirko not too keen to talk to anybody at the moment. Keeps the crash helmet on and walks back. Ricardo Feller just heading to the scales to be weighed as well. But Thomas Preining, you can just see he's taken another step towards his first championship in the DTM.
Yeah, prior to the start of the weekend, Mirko Bortolotti said, look, whatever happens, we should be proud of what we've achieved in this year's championship, but he still wants to win it, doesn't he? Let's get some reaction with Verena down in the pit lane.
All right, and I'm here with Dennis Olsen starting in P3 today, so you got a smile in your face there today. What are you expecting for the race?
I'm expecting an exciting race. Obviously, trying to protect Thomas a little bit. He's fighting for the championship, and if I can help in a good way, I think it's already a good help to be P3, which is nice. And now, getting a podium after a tough middle of the season is going to be, fighting for it really hard. I'm motivated. We have had some highs and some downs this season, and really looking to end it on a high.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, Dennis Olsen, the Norwegian former star of Porsche Supercup Racing. He is their third on the grid. His job is simple for this race this afternoon. Keep Mirko Bortolotti behind you. Keep Ricardo Feller behind you. Take points away from them. So Dennis Olsen coming home in third place, looking for his second podium finish of the year. He was third at the Norris Ring mid-season, but he has been a winner before in his first season of DTM last year at Spa with the SSR Performance team who ran Porsches in 2022. Christian Engelhardt, special dispensation from Porsche. He's still a Porsche contracted driver to race a Lamborghini this weekend. I think he's rather enjoying it. Second place for Christian, and they're the championship leader, doing everything that anybody could have asked of him by grabbing pole position under enormous pressure. This was the lap. You're right on board then with Thomas Preining as he made his way out of the Sud Curve, took the car right to the edge of the circuit, thumped up through the gears and headed towards the Nord Curve in fifth gear, approaching 240 kilometres an hour, dropping down to third gear, 138k through the Nord Curve. That's just under 150 miles an hour. He's now up to 215 kilometres an hour, fifth gear down to second, slow, tight corner this, down to less than 60 kilometres an hour. Weaved their way through three, then four, building up the speed again, up to fifth gear, flat out through the daunting left-hander here at the Parabolica, and from here down to the heaviest braking zone, down into the hairpin from just under 270 kilometres an hour, 165 miles an hour. They go from fifth gear all the way down to first gear and down to just about 38 miles an hour or 50 kilometres an hour through there, accelerating out. You've got to get the exit right as well. Quick right-hander coming up fifth gear, 202 kilometres an hour through turn 7. Hold on. Through there they go, approaching a bit of traffic. And that was a great lap from Thomas Preining. Join us for the race this afternoon. Let's go back, though, to Verena in the pit lane.
And I'm here with a very happy man, Thomas Preining, starting in pole position. You grabbed 3 more points, so you could extend your lead to 13 points. And I guess that's a fantastic feeling for this race.
Yeah, of course. This was the plan. But you know the series. How often does anything go to plan in DTM? So I'm just very happy that it all worked out. Also, my teammate Dennis in P3. So a great result for the entire team. And now, obviously, the goal is to get our first double podium of the season, which is a dream for any team. And today we definitely have a good chance to get that result.
All right, well, best of luck, Thomas. Thank you so much. What an exciting qualifying. And now, of course, we're looking very much forward to the race in just a bit. So see you in a bit. Here are the highlights. Enjoy. See you later.
Ja, danke, das ganze Team. Also, Vorwürfen, wir haben die Balance wirklich sehr gut getroffen, haben das gelernt aus dem Test letzte Woche und das bisschen, was wir gestern lernen konnten, glaube ich, ganz gut umgegangen gemacht und haben wirklich super ausgerichtet.
Sehr, sehr theoretisch.